In a sun-baked town where the air carried the scent of hot dust and ripe mangoes, there lived a boy named Tarun, 17 years old, quick with jokes and even quicker with excuses. He wasn't bad at school when he tried. He wasn't clumsy when he cared. But that was the problem. Most days he didn't try. He didn't care, or at least that's what he told himself. Tarun had big dreams. He wanted to start a business someday, maybe build something online, become his own boss. He had watched countless videos about motivation, read inspiring quotes on his phone, even imagined himself on a stage giving a success speech. But when it came time to act, to study, to wake up early, to start anything, he froze. He would say, "Tomorrow I'll be serious." Then tomorrow would become next week, then next month. He wasn't lazy in the traditional sense. He wasn't sleeping all day or wasting time on the streets. He just couldn't start. His energy disappeared the moment effort was required. It was like his dreams were trapped in a fog, and every time he reached for them, his hand came back empty. One afternoon, his grandfather came to visit, an old man with silver hair and sharp eyes. He had worked as a railway station manager for decades before retiring. He watched Tarun all day, scrolling, sighing, talking about plans, doing none of them. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the water tanks on the rooftops, his grandfather called him over. "Walk with me," he said. Tarun groaned. "Now, it's hot." "Laziness," the old man said softly, "doesn't start in your body, it starts in your mind." They walked slowly through the narrow lanes, the sky now a soft gray as evening settled in. Tarun kept his hands in his pockets, glancing at his grandfather occasionally, unsure of what this conversation was supposed to be. After a long silence, his grandfather said, "When I was your age, I wanted to be a writer." Tarun raised an eyebrow. "You worked at a train station?" "I did," the old man smiled. "But before that, I had notebooks full of poems, stories, ideas. I told myself I'd publish a book one day." "So, what happened?" "I waited," he said simply. "I waited for the right time, for inspiration, for motivation. I waited for life to slow down. But life doesn't wait. It moves. And if you don't move with it, you get left behind." Tarun didn't respond. His grandfather stopped walking and pointed to a small patch of ground where weeds had begun to grow through cracks in the pavement. "You see that?" he asked. "Those weeds didn't need anyone's permission. They didn't plan. They just grew, quietly, consistently. That's what effort looks like. Not loud, not perfect, just steady." Tarun looked at the weeds again. They were ugly maybe, but strong. His grandfather continued, "Laziness is not your enemy. It's your signal. It tells you there's a part of you that's afraid to fail, to be judged, to find out you're not as ready as you pretend to be. So instead of trying, you hide behind later." Tarun swallowed hard. The words stung, because they were true. They walked back in silence, the kind that says more than words ever could. When they reached the front gate, his grandfather stopped and turned to him. "You know," he said, "I spent years calling myself lazy, but I wasn't lazy. I was scared. Scared of doing something badly, scared of starting without knowing where it would go." Tarun looked down. "I wasted a lot of time," his grandfather continued. "And when you lose time, you lose parts of yourself you can't get back." Tarun felt something shift inside, like a locked door slowly creaking open. It wasn't guilt. It was recognition. That night, he didn't make a dramatic promise. He didn't build a perfect schedule or plan his future hour by hour. He did one thing. He opened a notebook and wrote 3 words at the top of the page. Just start small. And if you're still with this story, if you've ever felt stuck, unmotivated, ashamed of your own delay, know this: laziness isn't weakness, it's hesitation. And hesitation can be overcome by movement, tiny movement, even one honest action. This channel isn't about loud motivation, it's about quiet breakthroughs. Stories like Tarun's, maybe stories like yours. If this message met you at the right moment, don't ignore it. Subscribe, not for pressure, not for hype, but to stay close to stories that help you move again. Because sometimes the only way forward is to take one step. The next morning, Tarun woke up with no big plan, just a promise to himself: do one small thing. He didn't try to conquer the world. He didn't open 10 books or draft a business pitch. He simply made his bed, not perfectly, just completely. Then, instead of diving back into his phone, he sat at his desk and wrote one sentence in his notebook. Not brilliant, just honest. That sentence became 2 the next day. The day after, he added 10 minutes of exercise, push-ups, badly done, but done. And that night, instead of lying to himself about studying later, he picked one subject, one chapter, and read 5 pages. He didn't feel transformed, not yet, but he felt something rare, control. For the first time in months, Taran went to bed not drained by guilt, but settled by action. His friends didn't notice the change. His parents still told him to do more. But deep inside, he knew something had shifted, and that was enough. He kept going, one small task, one small win, one small push against the voice that whispered, "You can't." And slowly that voice lost its power. He began waking up with a clearer mind. His room stayed cleaner. His body felt more alive. And perhaps most importantly, his thoughts grew kinder, less punishing, more patient. He didn't need to become a new person. He just needed to stop betraying the one he already was. Weeks passed and Tarun's days took on a new rhythm. Not perfect, but purposeful. He still had lazy moments, still fought off the urge to delay, but now he had built a habit stronger than hesitation, action. He began helping his younger brother with homework, not because he was told to, but because he wanted to. He joined a local library and went every Tuesday, not out of obligation, but curiosity. He even started jogging in the early mornings, slow at first, but steady. Each time he completed something small, he added a mark in his notebook. Not a gold star, not a reward, just a symbol. A reminder. You showed up. His friends started noticing. "You're on some kind of streak," one of them joked. Taran smiled. Not a streak, just a new direction. He wasn't aiming for grand achievements anymore. He was building a foundation, out of small bricks, laid quietly each day. His grandfather watched all this unfold without saying much. But one evening he placed an old wristwatch in Tarun's hand. "This was mine," he said. "I wore it when I first applied for my job at the station." Taran looked up, surprised. "Why are you giving it to me?" "Because you're not waiting anymore," his grandfather said. "You're walking." And in that simple moment, Taran understood. Beating laziness isn't about winning a war. It's about showing up to fight, even on the quietest of days. One quiet night, Taran sat by the window, the wristwatch ticking softly on his desk. The same hands that once scrolled endlessly through meaningless distractions now turned pages of books, lifted weights, scribbled ideas. Nothing dramatic had changed around him. His room looked the same. His school routine hadn't shifted much. But inside, something had been rebuilt, gently, brick by brick. He no longer waited for motivation to arrive like a lightning bolt. He had learned that motion creates momentum, that the tiniest action, done honestly, done today, was more powerful than 1,000 empty plans. And he had stopped calling himself lazy, because now he understood laziness isn't a flaw, it's a signal, a sign that something deeper needs attention, a fear, a doubt, a forgotten dream. He had learned to listen, to take one step, then another, and now, the boy who once couldn't get out of bed on time was the one reminding others, softly, "You don't have to do it all, just start with something." So before this story fades into the night, let me ask you, what's one small thing you could do today? Not to impress anyone, not to finish everything, but simply to prove to yourself you've started?